Yo, what up, my fellow entrepreneurs and day traders? So today I had a pretty good day trading. I traded Mara. Mara was at a very important level this morning, and I'll show you here on the daily chart. And we'll start with the weekly. So this is dating back to 2023, last year, December. This resistance has been strong every time it's tested this level. So yeah, today this is the level it was trading at, and I had this level marked. And usually when the market doesn't have much volume, it's been really dry lately. There hasn't been much volume in the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. You just want to be careful trading. There hasn't been much popping up on the scanners that I've been interested in, but at the open, you can still always count on there being a fair amount of volatility, at least in the first 15 to 30 minutes. So that was my plan going in to the day. I wasn't gonna go crazy trading, but I know it was at a very important level. There was news that came out on the stock that was gonna be definitely a potential catalyst, and I figured I'd give it a shot. So in my daily analysis, I looked at it. I saw that it rejected this level twice in the past couple of weeks, and yeah, I was actually bullish on the stock this morning, and if you can see here, I did take a opening range break at the open. I entered here. I was bullish on the stock. I was watching it in the pre-market. I'll pull up the 5-minute chart. So if you can see, this was yesterday's trading day, and it formed this really clean level right here. And yesterday it rejected the level going into the close, but then in the after hours it gapped up to here. So this is a big gap. I think it was about a 6% gap going into the open this morning. And it was definitely up on volume. So as I said, this is the level I had marked. And I was watching it in the pre-market to see how it reacted and responded to testing this level after it gapped above it. And that was going to determine my bias because, yeah, the stock rejected it a few times in the past. But due to the fact that it has been so aggressive in trying to test the level again and again and again, that's usually a sign that the buyers are not letting up, and they kind of it was seeming like they were getting aggressive. And if you take a look at the daily chart here, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the more recent price action. And so yeah, this was on news. It had news this week about something to do with the company issuing some type of long term bond or note, and it gapped up on the news. It rejected the short term level I had marked, right? And then it became aggressive again, tested the level, it rejected, right? But it never came back to the low of this other level I had marked here. So that shows that the buyers are stepping up here. There's more buyers coming into the market. And if you look at the volume, it's not on very convincing volume, but this has been across the general market, across the overall market. So while I know there was no volume coming in to the market over the past few days, I wasn't really alarmed that the buying volume on this wasn't that great. So yeah, going into the open, I was bullish. This is the 5-minute chart for reference. This was the level I had marked from the daily chart, and the pre-market low, it was finding strong support down here. So I was kind of trying to see where the support was going to come in, but I was bullish going into the open. I took my long here, and it did make the move I was expecting it to make. It broke through the resistance level here. It looked strong going into VWAP. I could tell on the tape the action was really bullish. These green prints right here are usually buyers, and the red prints are usually sellers. I saw a lot of absorption when the sellers were hitting the bids, and this is kind of what tells you the relationship that this has to the time and sales is what tells you whether the buyers or sellers are in control. If you see red prints coming across the tape and the price is not moving down, it means that sellers are selling, but they're not able to push the price any further. And the reason that is because these are buy orders, these are bid orders, meaning patient buyers are waiting to enter a position. So when the sellers are pushing down, if these orders here are stacked across like this, it's kind of hard for the sellers to move the price down. So when you see that in relation to the way the candles are forming and moving as they're forming. That's kind of where you get an indication of whether you should be bearish or bullish on the stock. So yeah, I saw a held bid here. The sellers were selling, but they were unable to push the price down, and the buyers were starting to get aggressive. I saw a lot of green flashing across the tape, and it was skipping prices. Like it just looked like it just wanted to go like a race car. So I entered my long position here, and I was really conscious of going into VWAP because I know I was trading below VWAP, so I was prepared to take some size off. But it did push right through VWAP, and then it came back and retested on this next candle, this 3rd minute candle, 4th minute candle right here, and it held again, which means the buyers that were below down here actually stepped up, and now they're right here, and they're not letting the price push any further down from that point. That's a very bullish sign when you see it. It means the buyers are stepping up the price. It means that these bids right here are getting higher and higher, and as the sellers are continuing to try to sell, they're unable to push the price down at a higher price than they were unable to push it down before when it was trading below. So that's a very, very bullish indicator. And I did add to my position here, as you can see, when I saw the buyer step up in the held bid and it was at VWAP. So yeah, I added to my position. I took some size off here just due to resistance, and I was already at, I think, like 2.5, 3R. So I'm like, not wanting to give anything back and being conscious. Like there wasn't really um the greatest order flow going into the open. This is the order flow right here. When you see this thing just flowing and no pauses, like that's where you can kind of get a better idea of what's going on the tape. But when you see it pausing and skipping like it is right now, that's just showing that there's not much volume coming into the market. But like I said, at the open, as you can see, 1.8 million shares in the 1st minute, it's still good enough to trade from. But as you can see, yeah, it quickly dried up. And about this time of the day, I was realizing I probably should stop trading. I only wanted to take one trade this morning, but it was really performing well on the tape, and it was showing me the signs that I like to see in order to determine whether I should enter or exit a position or take one at all. So yeah, it made a new high, broke higher day. It came back, retested VWAP again. I was unsure about adding because of this big red candle right here, and it did happen on some decent volume. So I didn't add to my position. I was prepared to stop out at break even, which was about right here at that point. But it never came back to break even. So when it pushed back up, I knew the sellers were here. I removed most of my size on this candle right here, and it came back down and stopped me out at break even here. So that was my first trade of the day. It was a really good trade. I felt really good about it. And I did see them start to hold VWAP again. And it was slightly below VWAP, but it looked like it might want to retest that higher day. The buyers were still pretty aggressive right here. And I tried for a second entry here, second trade here. And as it was pushing up, it did push up immediately, but these sellers were stepping down, as you can see. They were first here on this candle after the first candle rejection. Then they pushed the price down to here and they didn't let it go any further. And on this candle of my entry, I was aware that the sellers were stepping down, but I wanted to see how the price reacted on another attempt to push through them, because I know this is where the buyers had bought from before. So I figured this was the best chance for them to try to get aggressive again. But yeah, I immediately exited just because it didn't do what I wanted it to do immediately. And when I saw the buyers step down on the 4th candle, I was just like, yeah, this is gonna tank. And the really cool thing about being flexible when you're trading, keeping your mind open and not being so um convinced and have too much conviction in your trade ideas, because you have to remember anything can happen in the market at any given moment. So when you're open enough to accept that, you can kind of use it as a strength instead of being um upset that I was wrong about this trade. What I did was I exited the position and I actually flipped it. I went short here because I noticed, oh, this is the area where the buyers bought before, but the sellers are aggressive and they're stepping down the price. Now, when I don't see the buyers come in on this retest and the price starts to decrement below the bids, it's the same thing on this side of the level 2 as it is in the other side. The sellers are here with their orders, right? And the price goes up this way and it goes down this way. If you can see, the numbers get lower on this side and the numbers get higher on this side. So what's happening in relationship to what's shown in these candles on the tape is, first there's sellers here. So let's say those are the sellers that are right here, right? Now, as the buyers are trying to buy, they're trying to push the price up. and they have to push through these sellers that are sitting right here for the price to increase. Now, when they can't push the price up any further, it shows up as green prints on the tape, but there's no price increase. The buyers are just being absorbed by the sellers that are sitting at that level. So the price ends up rejecting and going down. And now if you see on this next candle right here, now that means when the buyers are trying to push the price up again, you see the green prints will come on the tape again, but the sellers are now here. So they stepped down. Initially they were here, and now they're creating another ceiling here, which is a lower ceiling. That means the sellers are stepping down. And then you see it across multiple candles. They step down again. And what that does is it creates compression. And it's like the buyers are still trying to push the price up, but the sellers are coming down tighter and tighter up against the buyers. And usually what compression does is it leads to a really big move. So when you can understand that, I'm going to zoom in my chart here so you can kind of get a better view of what happened at that point. So you see the compression, they're compressing up against the buyers. The buyers are still right here. This is where they bought from before. So the buyers are trying to hold VWAP and the sellers are trying to claim VWAP. They're pushing down the price. The price is forming a wedging action. This usually leads to a big move. Now, when it's a downward wedging action, and the action you're seeing on the tape is bearish, that's like double confirmation that the big move that's going to happen due to the price compression is going to be on the downside. And I saw the sellers getting aggressive. So when I got stopped out of my long position, I entered short with a tight stop here above VWAP because this is the last ceiling the sellers had created. I knew there were sellers behind me, so I knew I was protected from the price rapidly going against me as long as I still see those sellers there. So when the buyers lost VWAP, if you can see immediately after my entry, it formed this nice big 1 minute candle, which was about a 50-cent move. And understand, it might not sound like much, but when you're holding 1,000 shares and the stock moves 50 cents in 1 minute, you just made 500 bucks. That's the easiest 500 bucks you're ever going to make in your life. But I say that not to say that trading is easy. It's that when you can understand these little nuances, you can capitalize and have an edge and know that the probability is in your favor for a big move to happen. And as long as you're controlling your risk to reward, like my stop loss here being so tight above the level was 10 cents. So my risk to reward on this one candle was 5-1. I make 50 cents and I lose 10 cents if I lose. That's a great risk to reward ratio. And that's what us traders are always looking for is high reward, low risk scenarios. My risk is 100 bucks. If I get stopped out, I lost 100 bucks. If the trade goes in my direction, at the minimum, I make 500 bucks. And yeah, as you can see, I partialed, I took some size, I took some bigger size off here. And when it looked like the buyers were beginning to step up here, I know this was the level from this morning where I had initially longed. So I know this was an area where the buyers were going to try to protect and come back in on the chart. I exited my trade and I felt really good about that move. And I just continue to watch the stock. Usually I'll be done by now just due to there not being much volatility in the market. But I was curious because, this is a really important level. This dates back to last December and it's been a very significant resistance level. So I was curious to see how the buyers were going to respond at this point. And I did see the buyers begin to come in here. And I was paying attention to the volume at this point too, because volume and price analysis is very important. I saw the buyers were here this morning, so I was looking to see if they were going to come back on volume. And I just saw the sellers. It was kind of a change in the volume profile around this time right here. And if you can see, the sellers begin to dry up and the buyers now are having greater volume on buying than selling. So when the volume dried up on this candle, and I saw that they had reclaimed this earlier level that they lost, I longed due to the price action, the tape action, showing me that the bids were stepping up again, meaning it was showing red prints, but the buyers here were not letting the price go down any further. So that's called a held bid. When you see that, it's usually a bearish sign, a bullish sign, especially if it increments. If they hold the level as the sellers are selling and you see red prints, but the red prints are making the price go up instead of down, that is a bullish indicator. Because if you think about it, right, if red is selling and selling is supposed to lead to a decrease in price, what happens if the selling is not bringing the price down, but it's actually bringing the price up? It means the price is going to increase. So yeah, I bought long again here, and I was very aware that I was right at VWAP, and also aware that the tape action wasn't that great, and there was very dry volume in the general market. So I took some size off really fast and just kind of went for a 1 hour trade, just because I was having a good morning. If you're trading well, you want to capitalize, I should say, on the moments where you are. And if you're having a good morning, yeah, continue to take trades until you have a bad trade, until you have a trade that doesn't go your way. So this was my third trade, I believe. Two of my first three trades were winners. So I said, fourth trade, why not? Let's see what happens. And the odds were in my favor. It held VWAP on a retest. It broke through VWAP. The buyers reclaimed, and I figured, hey, they might try to break high of day again, which is also the pre-market high. And I just paid attention to the volume. Also, you also want to be aware of the volume as you're in a position. And I didn't see any good buying coming in, and I saw the sellers were still creating this pressure right here from where they were earlier creating pressure. So when the sellers held the price at this ceiling right here, I kind of began to exit my position. And I just waited. I just waited to see what was going to happen next. And yeah, I removed most of my size here, and then I put the rest of my position to break even here. It was a good trade, decent trade, and I'm aware that the sellers are taking over also as I'm still in my long position. So now where my mind is going again is like, oh, they're fighting. This is a range they're forming. You see a range beginning to form. It's around VWAP, and it's also this significant level at 2720 that I had marked from my daily chart. So I know there's a big battle taking place between the buyers and the sellers trying to fight for a position and gain control of this level and see whether the price is going to continue to move up or go down. Um, so I was just still interested in, again, shouldn't be trading too long after the open when there's not much volume in the market. But this was the only exception. This stock had the greatest volume in the pre-market of any stock that was on my scanner this morning by far. And usually Nvidia trumps everything when it comes to volume. Not even Nvidia had volume the past couple of days. Tesla, none of the big names had volume. But Mara has just been going crazy. So compared to what else was out there, I kind of was like, due to this being an A plus setup, if a stock has news, if the market's moving in a, I would say A setup, because the market wasn't moving in the way that you would want it to. If there's going to be a big move, the market's been very dry on volume, but just due to the news, the significant level, and the volume that came in, and it gapped up pre-market, that's like a pretty fair A setup. So I didn't want to just leave it because I figured, if the price is not going to move up, and this is the second time the buyers have tried to push it up, you can see they made a lower high here, and they also made a lower low from this morning here. So lower highs and lower lows, those are usually indication that the trend is forming is bearish. The trend that is forming is bearish. So we're still at my level. I'm seeing the buyers were unable to push the price up, even though I was bullish this morning. So being quick and being flexible enough to change your thesis or not hold on to your thesis longer than it's proven itself to be valid is a skill that takes time to master. But once you do master it, you'll begin to see a lot more success in the markets. And I used to have a hard time trying to hold on to my ideas way longer than they were valid. And I was so close-minded about what the chart and what the stock was telling me based on the tape action, the market, and just everything, all the signs, the volume being bearish. Like, you can see who's in control usually if you really just step back and don't have an opinion and just analyze what the price action and the tape action is telling you. So yeah, I exited my long position at break even after I had some good profits, and I immediately entered for a short. You know why? Because this was the significant level. 2710, around 27 to 2710, they were fighting. And I saw them fighting on the tape, and I knew where the buyers were. The buyers were at 27. They were struggling to hold on to 27. And the sellers, again, we're stepping down the bids. So each candle that's forming, I'm seeing the sellers creating a lower and lower ceiling. And this was the last ceiling they created before breaking 2720 resistance, where the buyers tried, they fought like hell, but they were unable to push the price back up. And if you pay attention to the volume here, you'll see buying should have came in at this level. Because look, if you look across the board, this is where the buying happened roughly all across the level is here. You know, you're going to see the volume start to come in here on these candles. And when I see the relative volume here compared to what the volume did the last few times it was at this area, it tells a story. And what it's saying is that the buyers are giving up. You know, they fought like hell and the sellers are just too aggressive at this point, and the buyers don't feel like it's worth trying to fight for the position any longer. They'll run away, they'll go back down to a level where they feel like the price is valuable, there's value, it's called a value area, but they'll go down to a level where they feel like, all right, this is a good level to buy now, since I thought this was a good level, but it's clearly not because the sellers are still here. And yeah, immediately after I entered my position, the price began to move away. And now I'm just paying attention to volume, tape action. I'm seeing that the sellers are still in control, and it immediately pushed away, and it did come back to retest. So I was expecting a retest, and that's when you want to really pay attention, because if this was the area where the buyers usually step in and bounce up, when they lose this level, now the buyers are kind of mad. And you got to understand the psychology behind it being that the buyers are trapped. There are still buyers who held on to their position that bought at this level, and they're thinking, oh, the price is just going to go a little bit further down and then it's going to come back and go right back above. So when it pushes down below it again, there are buyers who are in a losing position now. And what that usually leads to is a squeeze. It's where now, in order to get their money back or not lose any further money, the buyers that are underwater in their position usually are going to try to wait for a last retest in order to exit their positions in mass. And when that happens, now you have to think, you have the sellers who are selling here, and you have the buyers who already bought positions and who are holding on to those positions still, who are selling as well. So there's double the selling that's happening at a significant level, and it leads to a squeeze, pushing the price away from the level really quickly. So I'm aware of this as I'm in my position. I entered above where the significant level was, other than the resistance, because so you have the resistance here, the daily resistance that I have marked on my chart, but you wouldn't see this level right here that I'm showing you as a significant level if you were just looking at the candles. But when you're watching the tape, you can see where the held bids and held asks are, and when you see those specific numbers where the price is just holding, and it's not dropping, that's showing you that that's a very important level for buyers and sellers. And other buyers and sellers are going to continue to see that and continue to trade that level. And also, the same idea with any level that you have marked on a daily or any chart you have is that if it's a support level, if it loses support and doesn't bounce up like it's supposed to, now the same level becomes resistance. So understanding that, I knew 27. I saw this level on the tape all morning. I had initially taken my long position based off of the 27 level that I saw on the tape. So even though you wouldn't be able to spot it on a chart, this was a very significant level. And as you can see, when it broke it, it's also a psychological level, 27 being a flat number. Flat numbers are usually the important the dollar, the round dollar levels and the 50 cent levels, and the round hundreds and the 20s and the 30s. You want to pay attention in those areas, especially if you see confluence and you see confirmation on the tape that the level is holding or there's a lot of action around the level. So combined with that, I it gave me confidence when I saw the retest, and I'm ready to get out at break even or at least slightly above it. My stop was very tight. It was around the 27.20 area that I saw the seller's last step down at. And if I lose that seller, I'm out of the position, right? And my reward was in anticipation of the break of the low of day. So if you can see, I entered around 27.10 and the low of day was about 26.60. So about 50 cents. Again, risk to reward of about 5 to 1. So pretty good odds. It moved down. It tested the level, immediately pushed away fast. I took off some of my bigger size here because it did reject the level as I was anticipating. And when you take off size, you got to do it with the idea in mind that you can roll those shares back over. Now, if your max shares that you're carrying and you're willing to carry happens to be 500 shares, and you see the buyers beginning to step in, and you know there's a chance it's going to come back and retest the area where it dropped from, because the buyers are not convinced that the move is over yet. They're mad now, and they usually try to get a little bit aggressive when there is a big break in price, and the price will come back and they'll try to retest it. And then it will shake out any buyers that had bought up here and are still trapped in their position. There's also profit taking too. So like you got to remember too, when sellers are shorting, they become buyers down here too. When they're anticipating the same thing I'm anticipating, there's a break of lower day, everyone's going to start taking profits here. So it leads to buying, and the price usually moves back up a little bit. And then the sellers are still in control. Buyers who are trapped from up here are going to come back and sell, try to get out of their positions, and the sellers are going to add to their positions here. This is exactly what's happening. So just like I'm a seller up here and a buyer down here, you got to understand that there's double-mindedness in every move that's happening in the market. There are buyers who are selling to take profits and becoming sellers, or buyers who are selling to get out of a losing position. And just like there are sellers who are buying to take profits, and if a move goes against them, there are sellers who are buying to get out of their short position, to cover and protect themselves from losing any further money. So when you understand the areas that are big levels, and there's a lot of buyers that have bought here, so I know this is a chance for a squeeze if the sellers can push the price down, and the buyers will have to exit their positions en masse. So I took my profits, I took my partials, and as it came back to retest, I'm not just anxiously, like, impulsively waiting to add, but I'm paying attention. I want to see how the volume is when they come back to this level. Do the buyers get aggressive? Are the sellers still stepping down the price that were right here? And yes, what do I see on the tape? I see the sellers step down again. So 27.90. The sellers are holding 27.90. And as I see the price begin to absorb on the buying, and the sellers starting to come back in and push the price away, I enter my position in anticipation of another squeeze. And just how bearish it was, you can tell it was going to go a lot further down, and the buyers were completely exhausted at that point. And just paying attention to volume, you see the big selling volume starts to come in here, 600,000 shares, 700,000 shares within the minute, and the price just continued to move away. I saw buying right here, and this was a place where I was targeting. I was targeting 26 as a level, just because it was a previous day close. This white line, this dotted white line, is the previous day close, and it did close at the high, but I knew this was a retest area, and buyers would try to get aggressive here. And if you can see the volume here, this anomaly candle, very big volume, and the buyers did try to create a little bit of pressure for the sellers who were trying to push the price away, and they were unable to even push the price over the high of the last 1 minute candle. A very bearish signal again, and they gave up on this candle. You don't see any follow through buying, and the sellers just continued to move the price away. I exited my position here just because that was my target, and I didn't want to wait around. I didn't care what happened after I hit my target, and that was my morning. The price continued to move away, but you can't be concerned with always trying to pick the top or exit at the top or bottom of a position that you're in. So yeah, this was a good trade for me this morning, and I also traded in Tesla. I took one shot at it. I saw the anomaly candle here come in, and I was watching it. It was my secondary, because 360 was a significant level on Tesla. If you can see the daily range, I have 360 mark. I know I have a lot of lines. It's probably a little hard to see, but if you look on the weekly chart, 360 is a very significant level from the past. This is the area 360 rejected multiple times in the past. This was back in 2021. So I know since 2021, this has been a very significant level. And the longer the time period of the level in question, and the longer it has taken to retest that level, the more action you're going to have at the level. So I had that resistance marked. I know Tesla's been very bullish over the past month or so, since the big guy, in Trump. Everything has just led to a very bullish price action in Tesla. Tesla's one of those really strong stocks right now. So as it came to test this level over the past few weeks, you can see that level from 2022 I had marked, it's rejecting each time it comes to it. But that's not necessarily bullish action. Yes, it's rejecting the first time it tested it because there's still sellers there, and there are probably still buyers trapped who bought into a position years ago and just held it waiting for it to come back so they could sell and get out of the position. But you want to pay attention to where the next buyers come in at. Now, if you can see, the buyers were here, and as it rejected the level, the buyers came up and supported the stock here. So now it shows there are new buyers coming into the market, and also the buyers are stepping the price up. They're holding a higher level than they had held previously. And then again here, you see on the next retest, the buyers hold this level again, which are also very significant daily levels. As you can see on the chart a little closer, this is back in 2022, and that was the last price that Tesla had rejected from. So as they held that level and then they stepped up again and held the next level, that's showing that the buyers are not giving up, and they're still very aggressive, even though they know there are sellers at this level. And there's only so much volume that the sellers have. There's only so many shares that they have to sell. Eventually, they're going to run out of shares to sell. And what happens when nobody else is left to sell? The only people left in the market are buyers, which will eventually push the price up. So yeah, this morning coming into the open, I was bullish on Tesla, and I saw it. It came back up. It was testing, nearing the level in the pre-market. And I was just paying attention. I was aware, but at the open, I can only trade. You don't want to be trying to trade 3 or 4 different stocks, or even at the open, especially with the crazy price action. You want to kind of keep your eye on one screen, especially watching tape. Watching tape is something that you really, really have to be super focused in order to catch what's going on and be able to use it to your advantage. But had I been watching Tesla, this would have been a great ORB. I'm sure you would have seen the held bid on the tape. As you can see, I had the green level marked. My green levels are usually just pre-market price action, and I had it marked due to what was going on in the pre-market. You can see they had rejected it yesterday at the close, and then they broke above it this morning, and they held on the retest here. And this was the next level that they had broken here and held on a retest. And I saw them holding this level really well going into the open. So that was a level I had marked just for my opening range trade if I decided to take one on Tesla. And they respected it really well. So I know my trade idea was sound. And as long as you can manage your risk properly, not every trade you take is going to be a winning trade. But when you can have a plan based on levels that you are interested in and kind of form a general idea of what you be prepared to do if what you're looking for takes place, and you can really capitalize off these moves. And even if it goes against me, right, with my risk to reward, and I know where the buyers and where the sellers are, and I place my stop right below the buyers so I'm protected. I'm just like kind of always trying to put myself in a good position, and that's what you want to be doing as a day trader. It did come up. This was actually my profit target at 370, and it wasn't even a level. It was based off of a measured move because I know the stock was moving in $20 increments. So I figured if I got in at 360, and the last psychological level was 350, it was just 10 and $20 increments I was interested in. I know that. So yeah, and this is the importance. I want to show you the importance of being able to understand the psychology behind the markets and having levels marked. When it got to 370, what did it do? It broke above it aggressively, then it rejected, and the sellers came back and retested this level, and the buyers held it really nice. So it shows you that this was a very, very sound level to have marked 370. And based on the 1 minute chart, you would have seen the $20 increments from 330 to 350. From 350, you can assume 370. And then there's also 360 and 380 because 360 is a significant level. So like the $10, I would just have, if it did find strong support here, I would have had 380 as another target potentially, and also the high of day. So like these are areas where you can kind of put yourself in a good position to let winners run and expect where the price can move next, and not kind of take sides off too fast if there is potential for a bigger move than you're expecting, but also knowing not to hold your whole position and be just hoping for what you think can happen to happen. You know, realistically, if the sellers come in below this level right here and the buyers are struggling to keep the price and push the price further than that, then this would become the area to sell, even though my target's right here. So like it's just, you know, you want to have a plan, but you also want to be responsive to what is happening in real time in the market. So yeah, I saw that it hit my target. I saw that it was very extended around this area, and I had just exited my position, or I was pretty much all done with my trade on Mara this morning. And as I looked up on my other screen, I saw this candle right here forming, and look at the volume coming in on this candle, bigger than anything within the recent minutes. This is called an anomaly candle. The volume that came in on this candle was close to 1 million shares. And if you look at this candle, it formed a shooting star doji, which is a bearish candle. And what that means is that there are huge sellers up here who were waiting for the stock to get to this point, and they were basically selling, you know, trying to reverse the stock, trying to turn the stock around. So yeah, I did see my sign. That's one of my trade signals based on one of my trade books. My trade plan for this, that when I see this is a reversal sign, and I saw that the stock was extended, so I immediately entered a position, not wanting to miss out on the move, and I saw the sellers getting aggressive on the tape. And I was also aware I kind of put my stop a little too tight. I took on a little too much size. So I just exited the position based off of the buyers still being present and showing up on the tape and still trying to fight at that point. And I didn't decide to take another entry because I was still trying to manage the final shares I had in my position in Mara. And I didn't want to do too much at once, because when you start to pay attention to too many things at once, you could mismanage a trade that you're in, and you could turn out to have two losers instead of one really good winner. But yeah, I took one try at it. When it didn't work, I left it alone. But as you can see, it did reject here, and the price moved back down to test VWAP, which was kind of the trade idea I had around that. And the volume wasn't great, and I saw the order flow wasn't good on Tesla. So like those are just reasons. You always want to be able to talk yourself out of why you shouldn't be taking the trade, because sometimes when you're so in the zone and you're anticipating things to happen and you see signals and you're a little excited because you're making money in the market, you can kind of convince yourself that things are happening and disregard other things that are happening. So yeah, I'll look on the tape if I'm in one of my biased moves and I'm not really focused, and I'll see the selling and I'll say, oh, it's a short, but I'll completely ignore the buyers that are still buying. And that's a flaw that you want to try to correct as quickly as possible when you see it. So like, you know, just knowing that, all right, there was no follow through on the next candle of buyers, and even on this third candle the sellers were dry. It showed that the buyers were still there, and it was a fight. There was a fight taking place, but the sellers were not completely in control. And you only really want to be trading the imbalances where there's one clear winner. There's one side that's clearly in control, and the other side is kind of just like not fighting. And if you see a fight, you just want to stay out of the way until there's a clear winner. Yeah, and also going against the trend, you just want to be very mindful and very cautious, even more cautious. Like give yourself, and I saw it reject here this morning too, so like it was definitely a level that was in question, that was an important area. But due to the trend being so strong and being in Tesla being, you know, how Tesla's been performing over the past few weeks, month or so, I just was like, yeah, it's not worth my time at this point. I had a really good morning, and that was my morning. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is my recap trade on Mara and Tesla this morning. And if you have any feedback for me, or if you like what I have to say, give the video a thumbs up. And yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions or anything you want to know or learn about. If you want me to talk on, please let it be known in the comments. And I'm giving away free game every chance I get. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.